Hey everyone, welcome to a new tank tips video. I'm Chuck Mayer. One of the questions we were posed on the last tank tip video is, would you mind taking me through what it's like to start this first saltwater tank? What are the requirements? What is saltwater keeping like? Things of that nature. And so I'm going to do this video in actually two parts. The first part is going to be the first questions I ask, the kind of things that I want you to be thinking about before going into saltwater. And the second part will be looking at different types of saltwater tanks. And I have always preached that there are 3 of those, and we'll go over that too. So, to start with, you've just come in, you're interested in a saltwater tank, maybe you've had freshwater, maybe you have never had a tank before. What are the things to worry about? What are the issues? What should make you do one? What should make you not do one? Well, what I typically do is try to find out what it is that you want to achieve. What are your goals? What have you seen that's made you want to do a saltwater tank? Do you just want pretty fish? Do you have an office and you just need, just a focal point of the office? Do you want to actually be involved with it? Do you want to learn the chemistry of it? Do you want to see how far this can go and turn this into an actual hobby? And honestly, a lot of different people want different things. That's why we have service. We do service accounts based on people that just want to have something pretty in the room to look at and leave the problems to me and Mike. Some people, they want to actually be involved and make it a family hobby, and it is probably one of the best all-inclusive family hobbies you can have, because from the youngest to the oldest, everybody can get into saltwater fish keeping. So, having found that information out, what are your goals? Then I can more direct you to what type of tank that you might be interested in, what size, what will accommodate, what are your restrictions. But the number one thing to have in your mind before you start is what is good for an initial budget. And it isn't so much so that I can sell you a big tank or a small tank. It's so that we can figure out how far we can get on the budget you have with saltwater. And because saltwater is more expensive, not necessarily more difficult, that gives me a starting point to kind of paint a picture for you so that you'll have an idea of which way to go. Because as you can see right here, you can do a 32-gallon BioCube easily for $1,000 or less, or you can do this 180-gallon tank over here, which can run you into many thousands of dollars. And I need to know that you are going to be comfortable in whatever direction we're going to go. And it may be that in that initial conversation you realize, hey, I am not ready for this. And in which case, I will help you to understand what to save for, and we'll look at freshwater or other alternatives. So those two are the most important initial questions that you need to ask yourself, or that I will ask you if you come into Fishy Business before we look at the first fish. So, having said that, let's talk about the size tank. Let's say you've got a budget, and regardless of what that budget is, we're trying to discuss, okay, what size fish tank do you want? Well, one of the things that you're going to have to, where we're going to have to think about is, what are the rules with salt water? Now, every place you go is going to tell you something different. I will tell you in the 30 years that I have done that and that we have preached here, and we do all speak this pretty much the same language. You're going to generally have about a fish per 10 gallons of water, so it's very different than freshwater. 1 fish per 10 gallons of water will pretty much put you at a 3 fish capacity in the average BioCube. Now, having said that, I have BioCubes, 2 in service, that have 5+ fish in them. That is not the norm, and especially being a beginner and starting out, I would want you to be on the conservative side. One of the things we do at Fishy Business, especially with new saltwater customers, is we don't let you buy a lot of things. We try to actually treat it as if it's us, and we don't want to give you or put a bad taste in your mouth with something that otherwise could be very easy and enjoyable. Because if you do go too fast with saltwater, the biggest difference between saltwater and freshwater is that saltwater is very unforgiving. With freshwater, when your water parameters get out of whack, you can typically, unless it's an extreme situation, you're going to typically be able to fix that tank in a fairly short period of time, maybe even in a day. With saltwater, if you let the parameters get out of whack or you have a problem and things start dying, the numbers add up very quickly, and financially you're going to feel it. So we absolutely start off very slow with saltwater, trying to answer all of your questions. And not to sidestep, this video isn't going to answer all of your questions, but hopefully it's going to give you a good introduction to the questions you need to be asking yourself. So, a 100-gallon tank, you're going to be able to keep about 10 fish. As a tank matures with saltwater, you're going to be able to add more fish than probably just what I'm telling you now. The one cool thing with saltwater is that, depending on how you set it up, you can also keep lots of other things other than fish. And even in the beginning, when the bright colors of fish are the strongest attractant, or maybe the corals, it's sometimes a simple little cleaner shrimp or a goby or a tiny little crab that will actually capture your heart and make you enjoy that fish tank so much more. The cool thing is that there are lots of little critters you can have in a tank. There are urchins, there are sea stars, there are hermit crabs, there are all types of shrimp, there are all types of just about every different thing you can think of that can go in a saltwater tank and add to the fish population, because most of these invertebrates don't put a load on the tank or put a heavy requirements on the biological stability of the tank. So you can actually have a biocube that has 3 fish in it, but maybe 6 shrimp and 2 starfish, and it just goes on and on. So you can have a very full aquarium even on a small scale and on a lesser budget. The one thing that you absolutely need to make sure that you do with any new saltwater aquarium is make sure you have a good set of test kits. Test kits are your way of knowing what's going on in that environment, and that is what's going to allow you to be able to maintain that environment. So the one thing other than the fish tank and the general requirements of what it takes to keep that tank, the other investment are your chemicals and test kits. And those are the things that you have to budget for in the beginning. This will run different with every tank, but for the most part, it's the same type of thing regardless of the size tank. The type of filtration with saltwater can be a lot different than freshwater too. And while this isn't going in your actual home, some version of this will. So we definitely need to get with you and discuss, once we figured out your tank, what direction we're going to have and how much spatial requirements we're going to need to make it work. Okay, so there are basically 3 types of saltwater aquariums that I typically preach to people. One is a saltwater fish only tank. One is an invertebrate system, and one is a full-blown reef tank. Scaling in size and money based on from bottom to top. And the number one thing we will go to after we've determined your spatial restrictions and after we've determined your budget is to which one of these 3 that you want. A saltwater fish only aquarium is what you see a lot of when you go into restaurants and things like that. It has the fake coral in it, it has nothing but fish in it, and a lot of these are big or aggressive or very colorful. There is nothing wrong with having a fish-only tank. These can be some of the prettiest tanks in the world, and they're definitely the first 5 saltwater tanks that I ever had. But there are other things that you can do as well. The invertebrate system, which is a system that has fish. It does not have corals, but it has all types of invertebrates, such as your shrimp, your snails, your crabs, things like that. And then you have your full-blown reef tank, which is your cutout of the ocean in your own home or office. And that is the creme de la creme, or the apex of this hobby. And in the next video that I'll be showing you, I'm going to take you through all 3 of these tanks, show you what to expect, show you filtration, and hopefully we can get a few more things out as far as whatever questions I can think of. If you have any questions based on what you've seen, or have any other ideas that you would like me to answer in part 2, I will certainly do that. Part 2 will be up in about 2 weeks. Please, if you like the videos that we're doing, if you like our content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please go check out our website as we update different things there and all the different giveaways and things that we have. That's at fishybusinesssc.com, Fishy Business SC on YouTube and on Facebook. Check out, every day we've got different specials. All of the time we have, any used tanks we have are posted on Facebook. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.